Special Prosecutor Jack Smith filed a motion in court this week to Judge Tanya Chutkan, telling her that not only does she need to reimpose her gag order against Donald Trump, which last Friday she temporarily lifted as Donald Trump appeals it, but Jack Smith said, not only, Judge, do you need to reinstate this immediately because he is actively intimidating witnesses right now in this particular trial, but Smith also told her, it's also time for you to revise the conditions of his release, which, if she does it, would make it easier for her to put Trump in jail pending the trial. That is what Jack Smith wants her to do. And here's why. As we all know, the big report from this week was that Mark Meadows, Donald Trump's chief of staff, accepted an immunity deal in exchange for testifying against Donald Trump. And it is this particular trial, the one in front of Judge Tanya Chutkan, that Mark Meadows would be participating in as a witness. I mean, he's already testified, given his deposition, so he already is a witness. After this news was revealed, Donald Trump came out, posted on Truth Social that, hey, I don't think Mark Meadows would flip. I don't think he'd take this kind of deal, because the only people who would take a deal like this are weaklings and cowards, Donald Trump said. So that, according to Smith, of course, is an indirect attempt to influence Mark Meadows. You know, Donald Trump saying, like, you would never do this because if you did, it would mean you're a weakling and a coward. That's intimidation. So here is what Smith said in the filing. This is according to Washington Post. Without the court's order, prosecutors wrote, there is an, quote, immediate risk that witnesses' testimony, quote, could be influenced or deterred by the defendant's documented pattern of targeting. Notably, the filing urged Chutkan to modify the defendant's conditions of release by making compliance with the order a condition, or by clarifying that the existing condition barring communication with witnesses about the facts of the case includes indirect messages to witnesses made publicly on social media or in speeches. Which means he wants her to kind of retroactively amend it to where the threat Trump sent against Mark Meadows is considered, again, retroactively, a violation of his conditions of release. And if you violate the conditions of release are revoked. You sit in jail until the trial. That is what Smith is asking. It continues. Such a modification, the prosecutors argue, would give Chutkan, quote, compliance measures available under 18 U.S. Code Section 3148, in addition to those available as a contempt penalty for violating the order. The compliance measures listed in that part of the law are, quote, a revocation of release, which means jail, an order of detention, which means jail, and a prosecution for contempt of court. So he'd be looking at additional criminal charges in addition to sitting in jail until the trial starts, which would mean no more campaigning for Donald Trump, which his, Republican rivals, I'm sure, are kind of rooting for Jack Smith in all of this. Otherwise, without the court's intervention, the defendant will continue to threaten the integrity of these proceedings and put trial participants at risk. So it's not because Jack Smith has an axe to grind against Donald Trump. Jack Smith is doing what any prosecutor would do in this situation. As the prosecutor, you want the conviction because that is your job to secure the conviction. And Jack Smith has done a lot of work. He's got a lot of witnesses, and he's telling the judge, listen, if Trump continues to go out there and attack these witnesses, not only could it alter their testimony, but it could also alter potential jurors' views of these people. He's tainting the jury, he's tainting the witnesses, he's tainting the entire trial. And technically, Judge, you're letting that happen. But it's like I explained earlier this week. Judge Tanya Chutkan lifting that order, that gag order, essentially was setting a trap for Donald Trump. And now with Jack Smith's filing, he's telling her, you set the trap, he stepped in the trap, let's go. Now all we have to do is wait and see how Chutkan rules. Hey everyone, this is Aspen. And did you know that for the low cost of $0 per day, you can subscribe to the Fair and Balanced YouTube channel. We also encourage you to like, comment, and share, but again, click that subscribe button and help Aspen not be so grumpy.